today's webinar, Using Technology to Improve Relevancy. My name is Seth Baskin, and I'm the National Sales Manager here at AccountantsWorld. Soon I will have the pleasure of introducing Erik Asgeirsson, the President and CEO of CPA.com. Erik is going to highlight how technology is paving the way for you to offer higher valued services to your clients. This is pretty exciting because by offering these higher valued services, you will make your firm even more relevant to your clients, you will help them increase their profits, and as a byproduct, your profits will increase too. So everyone wins, which is a nice situation. So let's get started, and we'll do that by first, let me come up here a little bit, talking about the webinar, some webinar tips. First, for the attendee control panel, you can use the orange arrow in order to hide or expand the panel on your computer screen. You have audio options, so you could choose telephone or computer speakers, which I assume you've done already. Most importantly, if you have questions, there's a place on the panel for you to type in questions. Erik will be more than happy to answer them if he can get to them on the call, or if not, after the webinar, we will get back to you. And finally, there's a place on the side where you can actually download the deck handouts so you can follow what Erik is saying, or later come back and refer to that, to what he's done. So first, let's talk about how you qualify for the CPE credit that's being offered here. There's one CPE credit. You have to be on the webinar for no less than 50 minutes. There will be 3 polling questions we'll be asking during the webinar, so you have to answer all 3. The good news is there is no right or wrong answer, so you can't fail. Everyone passes, which is good. And after the webinar, you have 24 hours to return the survey so that we can process the the CPE credit for you, and you'll get it. Now, in addition to Erik's presentation today, AccountantsWorld is proud to have lined up the following webinars that will also offer free CPE credits. You can see them on your screen. We start off with Randy Johnson next, and Div Bensali will go over how to market to your clients. And in October, we'll have a CPE credit on how to reduce stress. I'm not sure that applies to everyone, but I think there could be a few people that would be helpful too. So, in order to sign up, all you need to do is visit AccountantsWorld on the website, and there'll be a tab there that says Webinars. Just click on the tab, and you'll be able to sign up for free in order to qualify for listen in and qualify for CPE credits. Just go to AccountantsWorld.com. With that said, let me talk a little bit about AccountantsWorld before I turn this over to Erik. First, we've been in business for over 30 years. We are pioneers in building cloud-based solutions. We build only cloud-based software products strictly for accountants. Our business model is built by putting accountants first. That means we never sell directly to your clients because we believe they are your most important asset, and only you should deal with them and profit from them. Why did we decide to build products only for the cloud? Simply because it's the best and most efficient way for you to deliver your services to your clients. And when you use our products, which are designed seamlessly together, you really increase the efficiency of what you're doing for your clients. You'll also see through Erik's presentation today why the cloud is so important. We've also built our solutions from the ground up, so we have no legacy issues or speed issues. With our products, you'll have a cost-effective virtual office, which means you'll have access to all your software anytime, anywhere, from any device. Plus, you won't have to worry about different versions of the same program, no costly upkeep of computer systems, and most importantly, the ability to better collaborate with your clients. What you're looking at on the screen now is our suite of products, which includes a powerful accounting program, which is a professional system for write-up and trial balance. It's designed so you can collaborate with your clients at any level you want, or offer full accounting services to your clients. For those of you on the call that are doing live payroll, we offer payroll relief, which allows you to compete with the service bureaus. It puts your payroll practice on autopilot, and a survey of all our firms shows that all our firms, on an average, are earning $5 per check that they produce for their clients. We also provide websites, after-the-fact payroll, and our products seamlessly work together with our document management product called Cloud Cabinet. As you can hear, going to the cloud puts you ahead. And what Erik's going to do is take you to the next level. So with that said, it is my pleasure now to turn the presentation over to Erik, the President and CEO of CPA.com. Erik?
Thanks, Seth, and it's great to be with everybody today. So let me just activate the presentation. And Seth, can you just confirm that you see my presentation?
I do.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Seth, for the introduction, and it's good to be with the AccountantsWorld community. Again, I do try to do a presentation annually, and I think AccountantsWorld is, driving a lot of value for firms in the U.S., and it's good to be partnering with you. So just a little bit more about CPA.com and me. I mean, CPA.com is an AI-CPA company. We're the AI-CPA's technology portal. Our mission is empowering CPAs and businesses for the digital age, and I feel like I've got a fantastic job combining technology and finance. I've been working in the technology category for 20-plus years, over the past 10 years leading CPA.com's focus on cloud computing and just these incredible opportunities that are available to accounting firms today. So there's a lot going on, and what I'm going to be sharing with you is what we're seeing based on our interactions with thousands of firms, as well as some of the leading technology companies in the country, and also the solutions that we're providing to the marketplace. So we've got a pretty broad data set. So hopefully you'll find this information of value, and I would welcome questions throughout the presentation. So please do submit them. When we look at improving relevancy and what's going on with the firms, there's three key components that we think about. One is the technology solutions. What's your technology plan? And in many ways, that's the easiest element. The most important things to drive success are what is your practice strategy and what's your talent development plan. And clearly by attending today's webcast, you're thinking a lot about your practice strategy and talent plan. But what I see a lot of firms do at times is jump to the technology solution before they've kind of thought through what the right firm strategy is. So what I'm going to be covering today is I'm going to be talking about three different areas. I'm going to be talking about the client accounting services category, a category that we're very passionate about, one of the highest growth areas in the profession today, and clearly I know this group here is very focused on it. Many different names for it: virtual CFO, controllership, or client accounting services. But I'm also going to be talking about the tax and audit area, and we do think that there's been a big technology play there over the past many years, but we think we're at an inflection point on how the tax service is going to change and the assurance service is going to change for firms. So I'll talk a little bit about that. When you look at the evolving CPA firm practice lines, there's many things that we think about. And when we think about the big technology drivers, we're thinking about the impact of the cloud. It's game-changing. Mobile, the mobile cloud combination is truly something that all businesses need to be well aware of, and I know you're interacting with your clients more and more through mobile-based capabilities. But then there's also these two other points: this connected ecosystem and data. And when we're looking at the audit, tax, and accounting and advisory areas, we are seeing what connecting different components in this cloud environment can do, and the leveraging of big data. So I'll be getting more into all of that throughout this presentation. But this is collectively many of the things that the AI-CPA and CPA.com are thinking about. Improved analytics, future of audit software, new standards, and putting in place training and solutions to support the firms. But let's just take a quick step back and look at what's really going on. in this category. And when I say this category, it's like, the broader, financial category. And if you look at the level of investment, this is just one slide highlighting it, but this shows how much money has been put into fintech over the past 3 years, over $35 billion. And listed here are the top 100 private fintech companies. And many of these I know you're aware of. Some of these partner companies or these companies weren't even in existence 7, 8 years ago. One being Bill.com. And what these companies are doing are putting in place truly new capabilities to support both firms and the business environment. And I have another slide that's similar to this I just want to share with you, and I think it's just important for us all to be thinking about the environment that we're now operating in, because it's changed so dramatically. And what this slide here highlights, it's another snapshot of companies that are putting hundreds of millions of dollars into building solutions that help advance the capabilities for accounting firms. So this is a selection of companies, and AccountantsWorld is absolutely in this mix, and they could be on this slide. But these companies all are very, very focused on understanding how firms are operating and what they can do to advance their solutions to drive greater success. And I think your clients are well aware of that. So, the whole technology revolution started on the consumer side with the Googles and Facebooks and Apple's movement, but now it is clearly a huge B2B category, and the cloud is leading the way, and it's just an exciting time. It's a very, very exciting time to be in a small firm, to be in a firm of any size, due to what these advancements are offering to the profession. So as I get into the client accounting area, I have some questions for you. I want you to think about a couple of questions, and we're going to have a poll coming up. This presentation I do give to many audiences, and one question I like to ask is, do you provide client accounting services? I think pretty much everybody on this call probably is. How strategic of an area is it to the firm, and how are you positioning it? And I'll talk a little bit about how some firms who have built a lot of success have really done a great job in marketing and positioning the service. Then secondly, how is your SARS 21 implementation going? How is this changing how you're looking at client accounting services? And here's kind of a tactical question, but it's an important one. How are you implementing the legend requirement? Are you doing any branding around that? So let's do a forward-looking client accounting question. I'm interested in what areas that you see as the best opportunity for growth in client accounting. And I'll talk about how we see this. Do you see budgeting and forecasting as a capability you want to add? Do you see sales and use tax compliance as something that you're going to add to BPO or client accounting? How about HR reporting, or even getting into financing? So let me take a look at how this poll is going. Appreciate everybody answering it. So we're going to give another 10 or 15 seconds here. Okay, well, we've got 90% voted now, and it's a tie pretty much between budgeting and forecasting and financial planning. Very similar. I mean, and I'm not sure in the financial planning if that was all related to, let me just get back to my slides, to helping your businesses do financing, or was even some broader financial planning maybe with the business owner. So, first, it's the tie for first, budgeting and forecasting, financial planning, and then other followed by sales and use tax, and HR reporting and compliance. Well, as we look at this category, we think all of these represent good emerging opportunities, and what we're beginning to have discussions and see with firms is that they've got the horizontal, what we call the horizontal capabilities in place. They've got the payroll platform in place. Almost all of them are using some type of payroll bureau, cloud accounting platforms in place, bill payment solutions in place, expense management, maybe some traditional tax service capabilities. But now to really differentiate forecasting and budgeting in the cloud, and a true forecasting and budgeting cloud capability, we think that's going to be one of the big movers in the years ahead. We also think, I'll be talking about it, that the sales and use tax area could be a significant pain point for your clients due to what's happening both in the courts and with state and federal legislation. So when we look at the client accounting category, it's one of these great stories where firms of all sizes are leading the way, and it's small firms now are able to provide similar levels of services as the top 100, top 500 due to the power of the cloud and how that is a very scalable solution. That is something that absolutely small firms can leverage. And one just final comment just on this category and how it's evolved over the past 7 years. 7 years ago, when I was out speaking with firms, they were not even thinking about this category, and it was an afterthought. Firms looked at it as traditional write-up and as bookkeeping. But now that's not the case. When we're out, speaking with traditional firms of any size, they're all well aware of client accounting, virtual BPO, virtual controllership of BPO services. So the question now is not really if, it's just, okay, how do I want to get into it, and what level of focus do I want to provide to the business? So what I'm highlighting here is 3 firms that have really advanced their positioning and have built very successful BPO practices. One is a small firm, Lester & Company, and 2 are larger firms, WISP, which is a New Jersey-based firm, and Raymond, which is in the Midwest. And what I want to let you know is that it took a number of years for these firms to fully develop these new areas, and the success was truly driven in each of these firms by doing really good practice strategy planning and talent development. And at times there was even they had to find new people to lead the area. I mean, that's in the larger firm environment. And in the case of this Lester & Company, Andy Lester, he just made sure that he really put in place what his strategy was. He wants to focus on the restaurant market, and then he went out and he picked the appropriate solutions. And what I find very impressive is the quality of their marketing now. You've got WISP, marketing their outsourced accounting as Bike, Drive, Fly. They used to have it in 5 different categories. Now they put it in 3. And Raymond's got this brand, Skybooks, and they've all thought about how to truly position this service to their clients, and that's usually what happens last, is really good marketing and packaging of the service. So let's now move to a very, very important standard. And I did talk about this last year, but now we're in the year of implementation. So I want to make sure you're all, working through what we consider is a huge opportunity related to the SARS 21 standard, which was driven by cloud accounting, because what happened with cloud accounting was it became unclear on who was actually doing the preparation of the financial statement. In the old days with the compilation standard, it really was who pushed print, and if the firm was pushing print, then it was a compilation, and if the client was, then it was not. Well, that world has changed. We all know that. And now there's a new standard, SARS 21, which has produced the preparation standard under Section 70. And what firms now are deciding is when does the preparation standard come into play. and you need to decide that based on discussions with your client. At times, you may be just doing some processing work for them, and it wouldn't fall under the preparation standard. But if you are preparing the financial statement and you're going to drive this based on your engagement letter, then you're engaged to do that service, then you're going to follow the standard. And you need to think about, and I think this is it's a great standard to leverage, you need to think about how you're going to best do some of the implementation. So I'm just going to jump right into it, because I know most of you are well aware of SARS 21, so I'm going to talk about some of the implementation factors that firms are thinking about today. And what you need to discuss with your compliance departments, or if you're a small firm, just consult with some of your community groups, the AICPA, CPA.com, and you need to think about, when do you want to include your firm name and potentially a positive statement about this service, along with no assurances provided in the legend? Because one of the requirements for the financial preparation standard is that you do need to state that no assurance is provided in the legend, which is the footer of the financial statement document. I'm going to show you an example of that. And you now need to be thinking about how the accounting software report writer and header and page footer controls are going to be utilized to support this. So before I get into showing you some screenshots and talking about putting those controls in place, let's just talk about where it all starts when you're really rolling out any of your services. And it starts with an engagement letter, as you all know, and you need to determine if you're going to be providing the compilation service or the financial statement preparation service, and you outline that in the engagement letter. If you are only doing transaction processing work and you're not engaged to prepare financial statements or perform a compilation engagement, then you can note that. But I think there are cases when that's, I know there's a lot of people, some firms out there just doing some transaction processing work. But if you are providing the financial statement service, then clearly note that in the engagement letter. We do have sample engagement letters that we make available. So when you look at what you need to think about when you're doing the control settings of the financial reporter, one thing that firms are thinking about is the report writer. And you want to, in some cases, firms are disabling the report writer, so only they can control that. So they're ensuring that it's a defined, date period, and they're really setting up what the report will be, and they don't want any client errors. So then, just moving on to how we're seeing some firms leverage the standard, and when they are providing a virtual CFO or controllership or outsourced client accounting service to their clients, they actually, because there isn't any opinion or report that's provided in conjunction with these financial statements, so that in the compilation report you had your brand. Some firms are saying, well, it's important to us, and this is something that the Arts Committee took into account. We want to get our brand on the financial statements, differentiate ourselves. So here's an example. This is an approved example. Smith & Jones CPAs, outsourced client accounting services, prepared these financial statements for XYZ. No assurance is provided in these financial statements. So you can state, that you've provided these, and then you note in that no assurance is provided. So that's all I had for the client accounting BPO area. Now I'm going to move into tax. I'll just check to see, welcome any questions. Seth, is there any questions out there?
Yeah, actually, Eric, someone asked if you could explain BPO, what that means.
That's a great question. So BPO, sorry for the acronym, Business Process Outsourcing. A lot of firms call this, call it BPO. I think some of their clients understand it might be a little bit more of an internal term, but business process outsourcing.
Okay.
Anything else, Seth?
No, time for, we can move forward.
Okay, great. Good question. Thank you. So now we're on to our next poll question. So does your team feel confident asking clients about potential sales and use tax implications? I mean, there's a lot. The states are getting pretty aggressive out there. So is this something that you feel that you have working knowledge of to engage your clients on? Okay, so we got over 90% of the votes in, and more than half, about 60%, are comfortable, and then about 40% fall into the no and not sure category. So there is a lot to know, and so I'll be getting into that and addressing some of those questions as part of this presentation. Or somebody just resume slideshow. Sorry about that. So a couple of other questions that I want you to think about as I review these next few slides is, how critical. I mean, these are some questions that I asked at a AICPA regional council meeting this spring. Is the individual tax service, how critical is it to the broader firm business model? If so, does it need to evolve, and how? What are the most significant external threats to the CPA firm's individual tax practice? And what key skills are required for firms to evolve their individual tax practice? So since I can't, kind of have a discussion with you, discussion on this with you since this is a webinar, let me just give you some of the answers even before I get into these slides. It was pretty unanimous that the individual tax practice is a very important area of the firm. Is it mission critical? But some would say maybe not mission critical, but it was important. And one of the key reasons why it's so important, I think everybody on this call knows this, is that the small business owners that you support through their business tax returns and potentially client accounting services, those business owners, you want to take care of their individual tax returns. And we also discussed some of these external threats, which I'll be getting into. There's some with technology here. There's some new players outside of the accounting area that are coming into the tax market. It's something that we all need to be thinking about. And there are some interesting skills that are needed as the tax market evolves. So as we look, what I'm going to do right now is talk a little bit about the individual tax market as well as the business tax market. So first, on the individual side, there are different factors in play here. One is, on the individual side, we know that personal financial lives have moved to the cloud and mobile, and that is impacting how you want to think about the tax practice. And then there's a shift of tax being an annual compliance event to a year-round process. That we've been talking about for many, many years, but it's becoming more of a reality now. And on the business side, it's a little different story, where just increasing business complexity in the regulatory environment is driving, just a tax environment that is very complex. When you start looking at how you manage sales and use tax, you clearly need to leverage technology, and just the business outlook for the business tax side of your clients is very strong. But let's now just go back and look at the U.S. individual tax return market, and this is not based on just the current year's tax returns. We're still pulling all that information together. This is based on 2015, but the story it tells is absolutely relevant with what just occurred this year. And let me just make a couple of comments here. When you look at how there's about 148 million individual U.S. tax returns done, and today about 57% of those are done by preparers, and 43% are done by software, or actually there's still 4% of America doing it manually, with calculators and pencils. So that's so the manual and do-it-yourself, DIY, do-it-yourself software, which is dominated by TurboTax. So 43% do it software manually, and 57% do prepared returns. So there's some things that you need to think about here. One is, at times people think that the software market is going to completely take over the individual tax return market. That is not going to happen. There's actually thinking that the software portion of the individual tax return is going to plateau at maybe around 50%, because when you look at the prepared return market, there's a couple of fundamentals that are going to keep it with preparers. There's two big, markets here. One is what the storefront market really supports, the H&R blocks. They support a lot of the earned income tax credit returns for people that make less than $50,000 a year. And if you look at when their business spikes, is actually they have a big spike in early February when people get their payroll data, their W-2s and W-4s, and they're able to get that very significant paycheck from the government. So it's almost, in some ways, a distribution service back to this credit back to that group. And they're not likely to necessarily go to become, to the software market. Then you've got the, let's move to the CPA, the non-CPA prepared, CPA prepared, and particularly the CPA prepared. And one interesting thing here in the CPA prepared is that they have about 50% of the total market value, even though they're only doing 10% of the returns. And that's because they're doing it for the upper 10% of the market. This is what they're more complex returns, and this group clearly believes in outsourcing. Again, it's similar to client accounting services where the business is doing some outsourcing. Here, the business owner and others are going to continue to outsource their tax return. In many ways, even if they went and tried to run software themselves, that those individuals in the more complex category, the upper 10% of the market, they would be better off having a tax CPA prepare them, just due to the fact that the knowledge of the CPA with the software is going to do better than those individuals just running the do-it-yourself software themselves. In addition to that, people are busy and they're going to outsource this. So the thing here is H&R Block is not a competitor to CPA firms. H&R Block is really focused on a different part of the market. Yes, H&R Block is at times supporting some higher end returns. Yes, H&R Block is potentially going into client accounting, but really the firms are in a different part of the market. And this is kind of how we see it. We see the accounting firms, and there's a lot of similarities here to what's going on in the tax area, to what's going on in the client accounting services area, that the firms need to really focus on moving from a tax compliance event to being this trusted personal advisor. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools that we are seeing that will help firms do this. So move the year-round process, have a much bigger, complete financial picture of their client, do tax planning. And then the automation market, what we see is there's going to be continued growth in the do-it-yourself market, but that they're going to keep getting a more market share, but then it's going to plateau, and then they'll just grow at the population, increase rate in the U.S. And then there will be a decline in some low-end tax preparation work that's going to be offset by the automation of the tax return. But that's on the low end. So firms are absolutely not competing with H&R, with Intuit or TurboTax. And one thing, every now and then people talk about how the IRS, may take tax returns in-house. If you look at TurboTax, they are doing those tax returns for $50 a return. I don't know how the U.S. government would possibly be able to build a cloud-based system and support, doing a tax return for $50. So even if they did take it in-house, they probably should outsource it back to Intuit. So moving on here, let's talk about one thing that we're seeing is a technology relevance, gainer. And these are these financial aggregator platforms, and this is something that we're potentially working on a program around, where you now have these aggregating platforms that allow you to see all of your expense management, brokerage accounts, online banking, lending, 401k, and your tax return information. And you put that all together, and you create a client document vault and complete system of record for your clients. And you look at tax return trending over a multi-year period. And what I mentioned earlier about, external threats to the CPA's individual tax return, we think it's not really the H&R Blocks or TurboTax. It's really the brokerage relationship with these clients, or the wealth manager, the insurance provider. Those are more and more wealth managers. Someone who's got the CFP is also getting the enrolled agent designation. So that's kind of where we're seeing more potential long-term threats to the upper end of the tax return business that the CPA firms support. So here's just some more information on why this category is such a growth area. Stuff that we all know. For the next 17 years, 10,000 baby boomers per day will turn 65. There's a huge wealth transfer occurring over the next 30 to 40 years. Tax planning is going to be a critical component of PFP. Their brokerage accounts are going to be growing at kind of set rates. That's going to become less and less, where you can kind of differentiate there, and you're going to differentiate with tax planning. So we do see a big convergence here, and that's why this is a slide the SBA has where they're thinking about tax compliance and integrated financial planning, and even how does their tax section work with their PFP section. So there's going to be more about that, and in some ways we're going to think a lot about the tax practitioner in just what their role is, and I think some of these capabilities we rolled out to the tax practitioner, not necessarily to that very small percentage of firms in America who are doing true financial planning. So I think it's kind of like the bookkeeping area. You had to move from being a bookkeeper to more strategic client accounting, advisory services, virtual controllership. Just like think about that, the tax area over the coming years, we think you're going to have to move much more aggressively into tax planning, and that's a great opportunity, we believe. So now just looking a little at the sales and use tax area. This is a very complex category today. There's significant complexity around sales tax rules. I know you're all aware of that. But what's going to happen is, and what is happening, is that the sales tax nexus requirement, which was driven by a 1992 Supreme Court Quill Corporation decision, which prohibited states from being able to collect tax from remote online sellers, that's being challenged by the states. There's a Marketplace Fairness Act that's being debated in Congress. Actually, one of the Supreme Court justices in a recent ruling encouraged the review of the 1992 decision, because that 1992 decision, what that was Quill, an office supply company, was mailing their catalogs out via these floppy disks, and North Dakota then tried to collect sales tax based on the fact that a consumer was just reviewing their catalog via this floppy disk. But today, as Justice Kennedy and others have stated, you're almost more in the store when you're buying from Amazon or online retailer than when you go in the store. And now Amazon actually, which was for a while on the other side of this issue, saying they did not want to have remote online sellers get taxed due to the fact that Amazon has distribution centers around the country. They now are behind the Marketplace Fairness Act. So long story short, something is going to happen that's going to dramatically increase the complexity of sales and use tax collections for all businesses, and particularly small businesses, and that actually is also just happening today, where some states, and I'm not going to get into this, are already stating that they're going after people that remote sellers that are selling in their state. So This is just an example of, highlighting the differences in sales tax rules. I think this is a beverage company, and it just notes that all these states here highlighted demonstrate different sales tax rules. And then the red is where this company is currently in existence, and the blue is maybe where they're thinking about expanding. And these are things that you just need to be able to advise your clients on. And the exciting thing is there's some very, very powerful sales and use tax engines that are being put into the marketplace in a way that allow firms to manage this for their clients. And we actually look at this like the payroll business from 30 years ago, and we think this category of sales and use tax, you call it SUT. It's different than SALT's another acronym that people use, but the sales and use tax management. We think this category for firms over time could be as big as the payroll management category. But what we think is important is on day one here is for firms to leverage the cloud and kind of play that management role in that primary role with their clients. So we're attacking this in a very modern fashion versus how 30 years ago the payroll bureaus kind of created their businesses outside of the accounting firms. So there's over 10,000 tax jurisdictions in the United States. There's over 400,000 sales and use tax rules. So this tax engine, we've got a program in place, CPA.com, with Vertex. There's other ones out there with companies like Avalara. So I just encourage you to understand this capability and think about adding that to your client accounting practice. We think it's something that could drive real value for your clients, as well as it's a great revenue opportunity for you. So evolution of audit in a test area. So I know that most on this call probably are not doing audits. Maybe doing maybe a couple of audits a year, and you might be doing some reviews, but compilations and preparations. They're not an assurance service. But they are a service that bankers put a lot of value in. And I just want to share with you some market stats, and then I'm going to go into what we're seeing in the evolving assurance landscape. But what is clear is that in today's world, the users of financial information really value audited information sources. And we're in the process rolling out a clearinghouse for the U.S. private company market. And I can tell you we're speaking with bankers and private equity firms, and they really do value prepared financial statements by CPA firms, compiled, and then in this slide here from Deloitte is highlighting the value of the audited service. So, but with that said, there is this feeling that they need to see more evolution around technology. Percentage of respondents who see an opportunity for the audit profession to be more proactive in addressing evolving demands. So audit in assured information is critically important, but it needs to evolve with the times. And there is a lot going on here. I think some of you may have read with some of the big firms, they're putting lots of money into building out new audit process and audit capabilities. And another thing I think is just so interesting, that especially for this group to understand, is that some of the similarities to how the client accounting category evolved, and this category is evolving, because one of the key elements is automation of data extraction. They're doing things in the audit process such as OCRing, contracts, and then taking that all of that optical red information and trying to pull out information or a couple of contracts that need further review by the auditors. So just like in client accounting, where you're automating the bill management process and the receipts coming into the system, and so that's a big part, just making data extraction much more efficient. And then you bring into in place things such as analytics and continuous audit capabilities potentially, and even new audit services. We think there's an opportunity for new audit services. So that's the left-hand side of this diagram. As you move to the right, one thing that we're putting a lot of work into is the delivery of that information. And I'm going to be talking about the Review Clearinghouse, which is a clearinghouse that we have launched in partnership with Confirmation.com, where in the public company market, this information is flowed through the SEC AGR system, but in the private company market, there's issues with how that's currently distributed to clients. I'm going to get into that, but before I do, I want to ask this group, how do you distribute financials to your clients? I mean, how are you sending compilation to your clients? So that maybe we should have asked that. How do you provide a compiled financial statement to your client? Do you do email? I guess we didn't even have by print. We should have, maybe that's the paper. That would be other there. So email, fax, portal, or other. So I think the other people are maybe utilizing that for print. I don't think many people are faxing today. Fax machines are becoming relics. So over 90% have voted now, and interestingly enough, 30% email, portal, and I think that would be maybe a prepared financial statement. Only potentially for also compiled, and then 45% other. So let's talk a little bit about what is, let me just go back to what's happening here. Bring the slideshow back up. There we go. There actually is a significant amount of fraud that's occurring in the private company market. And just this slide highlights a couple of situations. But what's happening today is businesses, small businesses, and these are maybe some medium-sized businesses highlighted in this slide, are providing fictitious reports and statements to bankers. It's so easy in today's world to Photoshop a firm's letterhead, to put their opinion letter in place, and to attach it to management's financial statements and then submit it to a banker. And bankers and private equity are aware of this. And at times, so the one is just management sending a fictitious report to users. Other times, management may receive a report from their firm, a compilation or an audit, and then they will, doctor the numbers and then forward it on. And these two cases here highlight both of those scenarios. In one case here, there was this healthcare startup in Chicago called Canopy Financial, and they actually produced just fake, fictitious audit reports from KPMG, and they provided them in a second round of funding to a private equity firm called Spectrum Financial Services, and it was completely fraudulent. And what happened is the management of that, that company, was convicted and went to jail. But what really concerned the private equity entity was that they were completely embarrassed. They had raised funding based on these fictitious reports, and that the banker who oversaw that really it dramatically damaged his career, even though he didn't do anything wrong. In this other case, this was New Mexico Finance Authority, a governmental agency in New Mexico, they had an auditor, and then they let that auditor go, and then they just, the controller that was in place then just issued a fake report. So in both these cases, what this is highlighting is that today's system, there is issues with fraud, but there's also a number of other issues, and I'm going to get into those. So this is how the system is working today. Firms are emailing primarily today, as you in this survey highlighted, are sending the financial statement, either the prepared, the compiled, reviewed, or audited, in a non-secure, non-verified fashion to their business clients. And then their business clients at times are doing things to it before they distribute it to the banks and private equity. And one thing you should know is that the firm should not be submitting these directly to the banks and private equity, because that impacts your privity defense. Something that's very important to firms, because if you start submitting these documents directly to the bankers and private equity, that can significantly increase your liability. So we were aware of this problem. Bankers were telling us that they were just beginning to rely on the tax return because they were very concerned about the financial statement. The reason why they were using the tax return was because they could pull that directly from the IRS due to the IRS tax transcript service. So we've rolled out this platform called Review, which is a repository of intelligent, validated inputs and outputs. It's a clearinghouse. The U.S. market, there are other, it's surprising that the U.S. market doesn't have a clearinghouse like this in place for private companies. In the U.K., there's a clearinghouse, and other large capital markets there are. So this clearly is a solution that is needed from just kind of looking at the global markets. But anyway, back to what the solution is. The firms, firms that are licensed can upload documents into the system, the audit and the review documents and the compilation. If you're just loading, prepared financial statements or other statements that don't require a CPA license, you are able to do that. And the client can also do upload documents that are needed by the bankers or investors. And what this system ensures is that those documents are not altered, and it also has some advanced capabilities that I'm going to get into in a minute. But just one big question that we always get is, what is the difference between the clearinghouse and firm portals? And firm portals are not a clearinghouse, because firms should not be setting up the bankers as users of their firm portal to get client documents. When you develop client documents, that's between you and your client. So that's what your firm portal is for. And then the business client, via the clearinghouse, provides authorization for those documents to be delivered to the bankers or the users. This is what it looks like. If you're a third-party user, a bank or private equity, you see the financial statement in the platform. You see that it was loaded by a licensed CPA firm. We're also providing additional information about that firm over time. And it provides advanced capabilities for distribution by the client. So clients then, when they're utilizing this, businesses are utilizing the Review clearinghouse, they set up their group of investors, and this is a way for them to distribute it to their investors. And the rollout so far has gone pretty well. I'm highlighting a quote from Gail Perry, who's the editor-in-chief of the CPA Practice Advisor. Not only will this change the way some accountants will deliver information, I see a future where investors and lenders will routinely request that information be delivered through Review. This marks the dawn of a new era of relevance for small practitioners. I read that because this is something that we're hearing about. It adds a level of packaging around a very important service for the small practitioners. It lets the small practitioners, let the bankers and other investors know, their clients know that, hey, I'm now delivering this system that, it's a pretty important document that you were getting via email and print. You now can receive through the clearinghouse. At the lower level, there is no charge for this service. So a firm that's just needs basic capabilities to load a few documents up, and their client needs to distribute a few documents to bankers or private equity, there's no cost. As you need more advanced functionality, then there are charges, and that's all noted at Review.com. So where we see the world going, and this is something we all need to be thinking about, it's being part of this digital information highway, and there's modern data lending platforms that are in existence today, and banks are thinking about it this fashion. The banks do not want any information supplied directly by the business owners. They want everything to be by third-party source data. They want they're getting the banking feeds directly. They get payment processing directly. They get the IRS feed directly. So the business there, they say, just give us authorization. We're going to pull everything directly. We don't want to get caught have any fraud issues. The mortgage business kind of taught them this. It's happening in the small business environment. And the critical part that we're thinking about is making sure one of the core services of the CPA firm, the financial statement, is part of that information, digital information highway. So, this is the kinds of, we're looking at the loan requirements and from large banks, and that was an eye chart, so I apologize for it. But they are, they're all thinking about, okay, when am I now it's back to when I was talking just earlier about SARS-21. When do I want to require a preparation engagement? When do I want to require a compilation, a review, or an audit? And I all want it potentially by this new clearinghouse platform. So, with all markets, we know that they're adopted by at first stage early adopters, but then they move into the early majority, the pragmatists by verticals, and that's how we see this adoption occurring in this market. I'm now going to wrap it. Yeah, let me see if there's any questions. Yes.
Actually, based on the questions that I'm seeing here, everyone is seeing that technology is a way to enhance and improve their relevancy. But here are a couple of questions that are kind of generic I pulled from what's being asked, and maybe you can address them. Again, they are generic, but I think important. And first one is, are there any hints or suggestions or ways that you find that firms can get their own staff to buy into these new technologies so they can go into these new areas?
It's a great question. That's a great question, because I think it is. They need to be part, the change management. It's a big change management question. How do you get them on board? You need to let them go on the journey with you at times, expose them to information, show them what's happening with other firms, and showing them that you're going to help give them a career path, new training. Sometimes they might feel very comfortable with their current system, and let them know you're going to support them with these new systems. But it's a big change management thing, so it requires just kind of engagement and time with staff. So good question.
Along those same lines would be, some people are asking, how do you position the services to clients to generate more profits? It looked like from some of the poll responses, maybe we have some mid-sized to smaller firms, and sometimes they get pushback from their own clients saying that I'm paying you and I'm paying you, and getting more money is a challenge. Is there any thoughts on how to position these new services?
A good question. I think one thing I think about the verticals, that you're going to be really famous for. What verticals do you want to be known in your local area or around the country for? And I think those are the areas you can charge more premiums. And when some of your horizontal categories, you kind of get that commodity pricing pressure.
Okay, good. And the last one, summing up, is there are a lot of good ideas that you've thrown out with today or presented to the to everybody. And someone wrote, with all the different technologies out there for a smaller firm, how do they navigate to figure out what's the best way to go, or which is the best technology to adapt? Are there like people to help, or what's your suggestion?
Yeah, I think they need to, first say, okay, where do I start? If it's in the client accounting area, and you're saying you want to automate bill payment, then you look at that category, and there's different solution providers, AccountantsWorld, what we're doing at CPA.com, going to, if they can, some trade shows would help, and I think reading some of the trade journals that are out there.
Okay. That was, I guess, just, most of the questions kind of like grouped together. People want to know how to get to the next level, which is what you're showing them.
Well, hey, thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity here to present today. Seth, it's always great to be with the AccountantsWorld community. We also have, that last question, we have the digital CPA program community, where we focus on business leadership and technical training, and we've got our digital CPA event coming up at the end of this year in Las Vegas, where we'll be talking about all of this. You can attend virtually as well. Here's my contact information, Erik at CPA.com. Happy to point you in the right direction or directly answer any questions that you may have. I hope all of you have a good end of the summer, and thanks again, Seth, for including me. Thanks to Chandra and team.
All right, you're more than welcome. And at the end here, we'll just recap on how to get your CPA credit. So if we could just push this over to my screen. Let me come down here a little bit. And what you need to do in order to get your CPE is complete the post-webinar survey to earn your CPE credits. All right, that'll open when you close this window. Our next webinar will be on August 17th with Randy Johnson from K2 Enterprises. And if you want to learn more about our solutions, which will help you become faster and better, you can see us on AccountantsWorld.com or give us a call at the phone number 888-999-1366. So we thank you for your participation today, and good luck moving forward and taking advantage of the ideas that Erik talked about today. Thank you very much.